Hello, everyone. My name is Lynn Rios. I'm with Fleetistics, and I'm joined today by Aaron Eiler, our CEO, and Kim Toman, our business analyst, to go over one of the significant reports available to our customers in the Geotab platform, the Odometer Jumps Report. So let's jump right in.
No pun intended, right?
No pun intended.
All right. Thanks, Lynn. I just wanted to take a few moments to review. We had a situation come up recently where we had a customer whose device we found out was not connected at the time, but he wanted to know if that vehicle had been driven while the device was not in play. So what we do have available today through the Geotab Marketplace is our Odometer Jumps Report. Bear with me one moment. I'm just going to share my screen here.
Kim, before you jump into the report, tell us why a customer would be interested in this report, and why is it significant enough that you picked it to share with customers today?
Sure. So, like I said, we had a scenario come up, but essentially the background behind it is this is a customer report. It's used to identify gaps in ECM-based odometer values. So this is coming from the engine diagnostics. It's to determine how much distance a vehicle drove without a properly operating Go device being installed. So there's a few scenarios where I can see this coming into play. A mechanic may have to service the vehicle, and by doing so, if they are not using the Y connector harness, they're plugging directly into the ECM port on the vehicle. So the mechanic may have to disconnect the device in order to do what they need to do on it, and during that process, they may have to test drive it. Well, in the meantime, when that odometer or that device is plugged back in, it will then read those odometer readings and calculate if there has been any type of jump in the miles driven on the vehicle. That's the good case scenario. Bad case scenario is if you do have an employee that could potentially be tampering with a device and they disengage the Go device from the ECM port, and then they use the vehicle for their own purposes. So this will allow you to see those jumps if the vehicle was driven while not being connected to a Go device. We hope that this is not happening in our everyday occurrences, but it has happened in the past, and we want to be able to build in every kind of benefit we can to our clients to encourage good driving behaviors and use this as a tool to coach their drivers.
Right. So let me just explain. A jump, really what we're talking about is a lack of synchronization between the odometer and mileage being calculated by the GPS unit and the odometer and mileage being calculated by the vehicle itself. When those two things get out of sync, then somebody was moving a vehicle or a device wasn't plugged in or wasn't working, yet the vehicle continued to operate, is basically what we're looking at, correct?
That is correct. So
Right.
essentially, every time we turn a vehicle on with the Go device connected, it's reading the odometer reading. So if for some reason the unit was disconnected, it still moved. The odometer is still recording that information, even if the Go device is not connected. So once the Go device is reconnected, if there's any fluctuation between that first odometer reading and that next odometer reading, it will show up on the odometer jump report.
Right. And one of the things that has come up for many, many years is, with the Geotab device, do you get a notification when the device is unplugged? And the answer is no. It does not have a backup battery, an internal backup battery, a last gas battery. And I thought, let me comment on that briefly because it's not everything that everybody thinks it is. And we know batteries go dead over time. The problem is there's never any data that shows you when a last gas battery is no longer any good. The constant charging and recharging when the vehicle starts and stops tends to wear those batteries out fairly quickly. And then you think that you have a last gas battery that's functioning when in fact you don't, and you can't replace it inside the device. So it creates this whole false sense of security around being able to catch tampering, when the reality of the situation is when a device can give you tampering information or a device not operating information. When the device is plugged back in or starts working again, you're in essence getting the same result. And if you take care of the problem at the time that it happens, then you're not going to have an ongoing problem. It's going to happen once in a while as somebody tries to, to beat the system. But overall, the end result is still the same, and you don't have a false sense of security from a device that probably has a bad battery 6 months later. So I just wanted to share that because that's a really common talk track that we have to explain to customers.
I agree. And Aaron, I'll add to that too, because that can be a little bit of an angst with clients out there, is that quote unquote backup battery. But to add to that, in my experience, been in the industry for over 20 years, we've you may have drivers disconnecting the device, but they're just trying to get away with whatever that activity is. So we can set an alert so that when that device is plugged back in, it will send a repower notification. So this report, in conjunction with our potential tamper alerts, in conjunction with our device health report, all help you identify when a device is not communicating properly, whether it be because of tampering or because it's just not in service at the time.
Right. Very good. Okay.
I would like to add to that with the odometer jump report, we're also seeing the miles driven. So if someone does unplug the device to use the company vehicle for their weekend trip, you know how many miles they drove and how much of your gas they burned.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I can see that being a scenario that this would help identify. I mean, you're going to have those where things are taken for test drives while being fixed, as I mentioned before, but, there unfortunately are. Now, in accordance with whatever you decide is established for your employee guidelines, when you bring an employee on, as long as they're being notified that we do monitor via GPS, and they understand the rules and what's expected of them out of the solution, then you have a tool to hold them accountable for when they don't. And this is just a small piece of that puzzle. So establishing good employee guidelines is definitely a key to being able to enforce the data, because we always preach that we can share data all day long. We can give you all this information, but it has to be actionable and it has to be used for positive driver coaching behaviors. So if you go X amount of vehicles or X amount of miles in my vehicle without the device connected, you may have a very harsh policy on that, and it may be termination, or you may have a 3 strikes you're out policy. That's really determined internally, but I strongly encourage our clients who utilize the solution to really consider putting this into a driver employee handbook or guidelines, whatever your company policies are, and stipulate it to make it very clear what's expected out of your drivers.
Okay, let's jump into the jump report.
So the jump report, it just makes it very easy to outline. Now I have, in this case, I have shared the reports tab too. For those of you who are not familiar with GeoTab reports, it's always going to come up with your summary report showing, but you have the ability to hide or unhide some of the other tabs. The reason why I unhid the reports tab is because I want to show you some of the data behind this. What you're essentially looking at is we've identified that this vehicle, and this would be your named vehicle in a customer real case use, when the vehicle was odometer device was unplugged, what time it was plugged back in, and then the starting and ending odometer. And then if there's a differentiation between that, it's going to show you that in your jump distance. For those that are more graphically oriented, we also have created a pivot chart to go along with this that will also chart these occurrences side by side in a table for you. Now, like we said, you do not have to, if the device is unplugged, obviously there is no GPS connection, so it can't default to calculating odometer via GPS tracking, which is typical of a cell phone type solution, or one that is not plugged into the engine engine computer. Essentially, though, but because it's very accurate data. We've got our odometer readings, and then using it's only the two, odometer reading and then device power change. Those are the two ECM codes that we're reading. And it goes ahead, and this is the data behind the report. And then you have the easy functionality. Now, if you happen to be in Canada, for example, and you want to use this solution, you do have the ability to change it right here on the fly from miles to kilometers, and then click refresh, and it will change that data for you. And then you can also set this report up in your database to be regularly scheduled email. This is something that along with, like I mentioned, having the tamper alerts for repowering devices, and you've got your watchdog report, which is looking at the general vehicle health of your fleet. You can have this set up to be scheduled, say, on a weekly basis, to be able to just monitor and make sure that you're keeping everything is lining up like it should be. If you do not get the report and there are no jumps, that's a good day. So you know that you don't, but at least you have something in place to be able to notify you and identify this behavior soon after it happens. That way you have the ability to coach the driver and give them the opportunity to change their behavior.
So with the Geotab platform, customers can do two things, right? They can take an existing default report, they can modify it, save it to their desktop, and then upload it back into their system, right? And those changes and customizations that they make are going to become available as one of the custom reports inside of the Geotab platform, right? You can add your branding to it. You can write your own formulas based on the data that's already in the report. Or you can get a variety of free reports like this report from the marketplace, and you can download that to your desktop and then upload that into your account. And then now you have this whole extended library of reports that you would otherwise not have or would have to create yourself. So one of the most unique things about Geotab is this ability to use the power of Excel to create kind of new things. The data is limited to what is in the Excel report itself, but when Geotab writes a report and makes it available for free in the marketplace, then they're pulling from all different types of data and can do some really awesome things. So
yeah, and to that note, this is actually from the engine diagnostics report, which normally would show hundreds of different types of codes on it, but what they've done is narrowed down all the other noise and just focused in on the odometer readings and the powering of the device. So that is what all that you see in the report. On the back end, there's a whole lot of other data there. So you are exactly right. This is a custom report. There are probably over 100 different reports that have been done. If anybody is interested in working with custom reports, I encourage you to reach out to us first, only because we've been in the industry for a very long time, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel if somebody may have already had something in place that can just be tweaked for you. So I encourage you to reach out to your Fleetistics team member, your account manager. You can reach out to myself, and we will be able to help you with any type of report customizations. Even a custom report can be customized. So if I wanted to put a logo into this report, a link to our support site, we can do all of that and then reload it up into the database, and then you have your own custom odometer jump report.
Right. So what happens, like in your example, where we now see that the odometer in the vehicle is not in sync with the GPS mileage calculated by, the GPS device itself? How do you straighten that out?
Well, actually, that's an interesting point, and there's some clarification there, because this is simply reading the odometer from the engine. It has nothing to do with tracking GPS miles using GPS, because the device is not connected at the time. There's no way for it to calculate that. The only time we calculate using GPS as the primary tool for miles is if it's a very late model vehicle, and or there for some reason that particular vehicle and or brand manufacturer does not supply that odometer code through the ECM to be able to read. So those are the only two circumstances where you would default to the device going into a let me track my miles via GPS. Otherwise, it's always going to use the odometer reading engine diagnostic code that comes through, because that is the accurate count. So in this case, it is only using that and then the device being powered up to be able to notify, and then being able to compare to that starting odometer and then ending odometer. So it's actual true miles that vehicle traveled. There is no guesstimation in that, unless there's something wrong with the odometer, in which case that would be a very rare anomaly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, you may have a question in regards to, okay, this report is great. I found it in the marketplace and now I want to upload it. So I thought I would just take a moment to share with you how we do that and how we bring it into our database. Most of you that will be listening to this call have some familiarity with Geotab and the way our solution works. So I'm just jumping into the main screen here. My default is the map when I log in. If you go to Administration, click on Report Setup, and then Report Views, this is the area that houses all of the reports, starting with your custom reports that you may have already created or uploaded, down to your standard reports. In our case, we're going to want to add a new Excel file. And I want to show you the ease of use here. Bear with me one moment while I snag the report. When I upload it, it's a simple matter of dropping the file and dragging it. And as you can see now, I'm going to be presented with options. So I have a report view, then I have a tab for dashboard, and I have email reports. So you have the ability to select who's going to see this report. I'm going to leave it for everyone for our purposes today. If people have more questions about how to schedule, again, I encourage you to reach out to us. We're always here to help when we can get more specific with your needs. I always like to show the report in the drop-down list. This means that even if you scheduled it to be reporting, if you feel like you want to go ad hoc and just pull the report for a specific date range or time, maybe you flagged some activity and you want to see how long it might have been going on, this allows it so that when you're in that engine diagnostic portion of your solution, it will show in your standard reports menu as well. Next step, because this isn't really a dashboard type event report, I'm going to set it up though to be emailed. So I want to put my email options. Clicking yes, now you'll see I have several options below that allow me to decide who's going to see the report. Yes, I want to have it emailed to me. And then you have to pick your report configuration. How often do you want to receive the report? So I want to keep it as Excel. I want to do it for the previous last week. Right here. Last week, I want to get this weekly, and I want to get this Monday, starting Monday, and I want it to come at 6 o'clock in the morning. And that's going to give me all of the data I need for the previous week so I can sort through any anomalies or any situations that might have arisen from the previous week. I can let supervisors know if need be. I can have coaching discussions one-on-one. Once I've selected all of my options, then it's just a matter of scrolling back to the top and clicking Save. And now if we go down to, and we are in our demo database, so we have quite a few custom reports. So then you will see the odometer jumps report right here down towards the bottom as we scroll up. So we've got the report saved and it's in there and accessible, and starting Monday, February 1st, who knew it's already February, that we'll start receiving the report and we can start acting accordingly.
Okay, well, very good. Certainly seems like an easy enough process once you see it once or twice. And Certainly helps you keep tabs on any potential issues with the device or devices not being functional or installed. So, just a great addition to the GeoTab platform. And is there anything else that you guys want to add to this, or is this is a pretty thorough review of this particular functionality?
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is good. I hope that everybody finds it helpful today. We will be doing quite a bit more of these in the upcoming future, so we hope that you decide to check those out as well. And as always, reach out to us, www.fleetistics.com, or call your account manager directly, and we're here to assist you with any of your GPS fleet management needs.
Yeah, and if there's anything in particular that you would like to see, a particular scenario like introduction to employees or asset tracking or whatever those cases are, leave it in the comments. Go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe would also be great. And we will talk to you on the next video. Thank you for attending.
All right.
Thank you.